Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to another episode here of the Ask EJ Show. That's me. So, this is episode 40. That's right, 40. 40. All right. With the show here, that's where I normally answer questions that you guys submit. I'll do 3 questions. Since this is episode 40, we're going to do a little something different. I have some stuff I wanted to talk to you guys about that pertains to a lot of the information in the first 39 episodes. And I want to show you here a perfect example of what we have been discussing. All right. So, as you can tell, I'm not in the studio. I'm here in my gun room. If you're a Sheepdog Society member, then this looks pretty familiar to you because this is where I do shop talk on Thursdays for you guys. So I thought I would do episode 40 here in the gun room because it pertains to what we talk about here on the show. And I thought, while I'm here, might as well just turn the camera on. Let's do episode 40 because what you're going to hear is pretty standard in our industry. But this is a perfect example of why we have the discussions we have here on the Ask EJ Show. All right, so let's get started. My next door neighbor is a 60-year-old widow, and being a widow, she lives alone. She got married in high school. She married her high school sweetheart, and about 9 years ago, her husband died of cancer. So she's been living alone since then. A couple of years ago, she said, I think I need to get a gun to protect myself. I live all alone, and, I'm getting up in age, and I need something to equalize the fight should it be brought to me. So, not knowing anything about how to get a gun, where to buy a gun, all that other stuff, she does what is pretty typical for the uninformed. And she goes down to a local pawn shop and starts looking around. And she gets into a discussion with the guy behind the counter. She tells that guy her story, and the guy says, I've got the perfect gun for you. Come right on over here. So, whoever this guy's name is, whatever it is, he sells her a pistol. And she's like, well, now I've got a master blaster, I can take care of myself. Awesome. She goes to a local range. They tell her, hey, you got to buy some bullets. Go right over in there. She don't have no eye protection, ear protection. So the guy's kind of like, well, you got to have that stuff. Fortunately, we'll give it to you, so you can use. So, again, she's not too up to speed on what all it takes to, operate a handgun safely. They don't bother to walk her back to the rear and show her how to load the gun or anything like that. So she's kind of winging it, looking around. She finally gets the gun loaded and she shoots it a couple times, and she has a couple of failures to eject. The way she described it was the shell casing kind of turned sideways, and it wouldn't fire anymore. Well, she got frustrated, didn't finish all the box of bullets there, and put it right back in the box where it was when she bought it, took it home, and has never touched it since. So we're out in the yard. She says, hey, EJ, I've got a gun. I don't use it. I'd like to carry it. Would you mind taking a look at it? Yeah, obviously, sure. Not a problem. Well, she brings out this little box here, and this is the whole purpose of episode 40. So you can see the things we've been talking about, how in real life it's legit, and it's up to you and I to help inform our friends, families, and neighbors, if they desire. So she brings out this little box, man, and I'm telling you, I like to flip out. I said, this is what you have, and she's proud of it. This is the only thing she knows. I said, well, good, you got you a gun. That's awesome. What are we going to do with this thing? She says, well, I'd like for you to teach me how to shoot it, but I don't know that it works pretty well at all, so could you take a look at it? Yeah, no problem, Daryl. I'll take a look at it. So I bring it over here in the gun room, and let me show you what she's got. So she was sold this here magical talisman called a CA380 by Cobra Firearms. Yep. It's a CA380 with a black finish and black grips. Yeah. Well, let's open up this glorious piece of liberty. Yep, that's what she got. Now, again, I'm not one to sit here and condemn, firearms and that kind of stuff. If that's what you can afford, and you can actually get one, rock on, right? This is where us as gun guys and gun chicks, and the 4 hot chicks that are watching this show, you know who you are. We have to go out and say, oh, look, that's a great thing that you did, was got a gun, and that's a purchase based on a recognition that, what, I need to defend myself, and there's something out there that can help me do it a little bit better. Well, the guy behind the counter sells her this little pocket rocket here, and she thinks, I've got it. Now I'm set up. Well, maybe she is. But could we have gotten something a little bit more reliable? Maybe. Maybe this is all she could afford. Who am I to say? But let's look at it for a second. So this is a 380. It has a safety right here. Up. Hold on. There you go. Up and down. And then the mag release is one of these heel releases. Thing is that when you release it, you actually have to pull the magazine out. And here's what I was surprised at. This magazine, look at it shining. It looks like one of those magazines from your kid's toy box. So, anyway, pretty cheap. It has no slide lock on it, and you can see the ejector is on the top. All right. Now look at this. This is what I want you to see. The reason she's saying it's going sideways a little bit is, look at the extractor there. Did I call it an ejector? It's an extractor, actually. Little cattywampus. That's Southern for not straight. A little bit cattywampus in there, right? But it does move a little bit when you pull the slide back. Maybe that's one of the reasons. I don't know. When you pull this thing back, you got to really put a little bit of MAN into it. And then listen to this. So you're going to pull it back, right? And us with normal guns, we go like, oh, there it is. But listen. There's that extra little bit you got to pull back. Well, this gun weighs 24 ounces. And it kicks pretty good. Another thing is, look at the back. Oh, hang on. Let me drive this thing. Look at the back. You're going to get slide bit pretty good with that thing. So, not only is it pretty heavy, but when it shoots, it kicks real strong for a 380. I mean, it'll pop up in your hand. And then you're going to get bit by the slide. So what you end up doing is sliding that hand down a little bit lower so the slide don't bite you. Well, then what does that do? It pops it up in your hand a little bit more on the recoil. So, it's not that fun to shoot. It doesn't appear to be reliable, to the person who bought it, because she had those failure to ejects. And then what does she do? She puts it back in the box and she never uses it again. There's also this psychological thing that happens that a lot of times you and I, as gun owners and concealed carriers, we don't even think about it. Like, we totally disregard it as even a plausible thought pattern because we know it not to be true. And here it is. You buy that gun, it doesn't function right, you put it away, you're not going to look, they're not going to look for another gun because here it is. They assume all the other guns are the same way. Her line of thinking is, I must not know what I'm doing. Even more so, I don't trust the gun because I don't know what I'm doing. It's only messing up because I don't know what I'm doing. So maybe a gun's not for me. And I can understand that. I really can. When you have a new person going to look for a gun, this is where the guy behind the counter can take advantage of someone who just doesn't know. They're ignorant, and I don't mean that in a negative way. They are without knowledge of said gun. They don't know that there's a difference in guns and different features that guns could have, different weights, different calibers, all this other stuff. She's a 60-year-old widow who has made the conscious decision to defend herself with a firearm and now is left to the wolves behind the counter. And she just happened to be taken advantage of. Now, another thing is she went to a pawn shop, but I got to show you this. She went to a pawn shop. And I was like, well, darling, why are you going to a pawn shop to buy a gun? She's like, well, I thought that's where you buy guns and stuff. I don't know. I'm like, no, we have these things called, like, whole stores dedicated to guns, like, and that's what they sell, like guns, and they call it a gun store. Huh, okay. Hey, but that's okay. That's all right. So I have the receipt here, and I went ahead and looked that gun up on like Gun Broker and a couple of these other sites. And like, that gun literally is the cheapest gun in America. And then right now on like Gun Broker, it's going for like $98. Yeah, $98. I mean, I've seen them like on another site, it was as high as $103. Yeah, I mean, we're breaking the bank there, right? Well, she bought this gun from, and I promise you I'm not making this up, Big Daddy's Pawn. That's exactly what it says, Big Daddy's Pawn. Big Daddy's Pawn shop, and she bought it for $130. Yep, $130. Oh, man. She walked out of there feeling like $1 million, and that dude's behind the counter laughing. And, you know, that's one of my biggest pet peeves with retailers of firearms. And maybe that's not their job. Maybe they're just trying to make a sale, like a used car salesman. But, you know, when you're going to sell a weapon that's designed to take someone's life in order to defend someone's life, you know, I would take that a little bit more seriously. That dude just sold her what was readily available and hadn't sold in a long time in order just to move a product. Now, we've talked about this on some of our episodes. It actually happened right here. I mean, my neighbors live in proof of it. And as a firearm owner, you know, you just don't know what you don't know. And that's where, you know, what we're doing here and discussing, you know, different topics and things that come up inside the gun world, and, you know, maybe for, you know, outside the gun world, but in that realm of personal protection, you're stirring up thoughts for people who may not have even thought about said subject, and giving them food for thought. And this open dialogue right here helps people because you just don't know what you don't know, right? So I'm going to take her out. You know, I'm going to do a functionality test on this thing, and I'm going to shoot it first and make sure that, you know, it's not going to blow up in her face. And then we'll take her out and train her on that gun. Now, hold up a second. There's a method to my madness. And this is another thing that we discuss. show her how to shoot her gun. That's the one she bought. It's hers. Show her how to shoot that one. Before you start offering up, these other type of guns, maybe it's the same caliber but better. Maybe it's a little bit lighter but better. And, everything's going to be better, right? Here, do this. Here, do this. Here, do this. Remember that if you do that, then here we go back in that same methodology we've talked about. And it is, here, do what I show, do what I tell you to do what I show, and do what I recommend. You have to give them the reason why. Not because it's better and, they're more reliable. They don't have any basis of knowledge in which to understand how much better, more reliable it is. So you let her, in this case, let her shoot her gun, however awful it may be for experience for her, and get her comfortable with how heavy it is, what the trigger pull is, the reset, how to change the magazine, how to load it, and all the other stuff. And here's why. Hang on. Here's why. Because when she can put that gun in her hands and make that bullet hit the paper where she wanted it to hit, then all of a sudden, hey, now, okay, guns do work. I think I know how to operate a gun. I think I'm starting to feel a little bit more comfortable about operating a gun. And it's my gun. Cool. Now, when we reach that point, and that's going to be to your discretion if you're the one helping somebody like this, then you say, you know what, you've done pretty good with that. I'm impressed. Would you like to try a couple of other guns and see what you think about those? And again, now that they're in that realm of being comfortable, more likely, oh yeah, sure. So then you can break out something else, the Whackmaster 3000 or, the Smoke Wagon 2.4, whatever you want to break out, and let her shoot those as well. And then based on her current experience with that thing, she's going to know what differences are in this gun. Hey, this is a lot lighter. Oh, the trigger's a little bit different. This is easier to load. I can line my sights up better. Whatever. It fits in my hand. Whatever those may be. And here's where that whole psychological thing comes in. It becomes her idea, not yours. When you help people come to their own conclusion, they own that information. When you tell them what to do and they just do it, then they're doing it because that's what you told them to do. And when some person comes along, again, like we've discussed, who has a one line item more on their resume or a lot better looking, is more charismatic or whatever, maybe he has some type of official emblem on his said uniform, and says something different, then she's going to arbitrarily go with that person in most cases. Let it become their idea. Let them shoot some stuff, and then based on their own conclusions, then you can help drive them toward what you know to be right. And look, don't force it. If it don't work, it don't work. But at least she's got something that she could skin out, and hopefully, when she pulls the trigger, that bullet actually launches and hits that bad guy before he kills her. In our community, it seems to be that the elderly, a lot of women, and ignorant men get taken advantage of at gun stores. I'm just calling it like it is. So, a lot of times people will take friends who maybe are a gun owner. I guess that's a rite of passage. If you own a gun, then you obviously know something. Take a gun owning friend with them to buy a gun. It starts off with, I'm going to look for a gun. I'm just looking. And then they hold it and feel it, and they get a little fire in their belly, and it feels good. And they're like, yeah, let's do it, right? And it becomes an impulse buy more than it does a purchase of functionality and what's right for them. So here I am with this thing, and I'm going to just open her up and look inside this gun and make sure that it's all there and functioning. make sure nothing's cracked inside or whatever. You know, I told you she spent $130, right? Let me make sure. Yeah, $129.99. All right, so $130. And I told you on Gunbroker they're like $98 to like 103 or something. 103 or $104, right? And on Gunbroker, it's a brand new gun. She bought that one used for $130. And that kind of crap right there just makes me fired up, man. It makes me so pissed off that the guy would take advantage of a poor old lady like that. So, anyway, you know, like on these shows, we talk about, you know, people ask, you know, my wife is, you know, getting into it. My wife's a little leery. I got a buddy of mine. He's got, you know, this issue here. You know, what's happening is because you own a gun and because, you know, you carry it on a regular basis, and again, we've discussed this before too, you become like how I describe someone would be, like if I was like a heroin dealer, they're like, hey, I got a gun too. Yeah, I own a gun too. Like we got to talk in secret about it, you know? Well, that's how they do, right? But it's okay. You know, I'm like, oh, great. That's awesome. Then what's my next question? Those of you who watch the show, what is my next question? Why you got a gun? See, it's not so much what, but it's why. I got the why from my neighbor. She wants to protect herself. Now I got to deal with the what. So I'm going to work on her to teach her how to shoot and operate this gun effectively. And then when she starts to be able to operate it on her own without a whole lot of, you know, chattering guidance from me, then I'll introduce her to some other products. Just say, hey, look, just for grins and giggles, we're going to shoot some other stuff. And let's see what she says. And when we get done with that, I'll let you know how that goes. Because this is what we do. Okay? This is one of our biggest responsibilities as the gun community is to go out into the highways and byways with our friends, families, and neighbors and such and preach that gospel of gun ownership, responsibility, and self-defense. And people use us as examples of either where to get started or as a sounding block to where they are currently. And they bounce off what they're doing based on what you're doing. And so the biggest thing, the biggest benefit to being someone who practices that the gun ownership religiously, who is committed to, you know, utilizing a firearm for self-defense, training on it, getting as much education, knowledge, and you know, skill development as you can, is to take that information that you're learning and pass it along. So when you have an incident like this, which I'm sure, and just be honest with yourself, you know exactly what I'm talking about. This kind of stuff happens to you too. And we are no different in that regard. So I wanted you just to see how I handled it. And then, you know, you come up with your way of how you wanted to talk about, you know, the Second Amendment. How do you utilize that right? And then all the different facets that go along with it that make it important. And again, it's not so much the what, okay? It's the why. But once you have the why, then we can work from there. You know, the fact that she went out and made that decision on her own and without any information whatsoever, said, it's time. I need to go get one. I commend her totally for that. You know, I really do, because that's the biggest point of where someone says, I'm not going to be a gun owner, or I am going to be a gun owner. That point right there is where, hey, now she's on our side of the fence, and it's our responsibility to take care of her. And when she comes asking, for information and seeking guidance, that's where we have an opportunity to take what we know and pass it along and be responsible for that knowledge, and help someone else. Because she may be more likely to have to use that gun than I would at this given point. She's 60 years old. She's by herself. She's more of an easier target than, say, me. I may fight back a little bit, I may put up a little bit of resistance. She doesn't probably appear to be, an MMA fighter, and so she probably carries some money on her. And that's what these animals out there do. They prey on what they perceive to be the weakest individual, and because they can get that quick reward. So, I know this is kind of different than our normal ask questions, but if you go back and you look at all those questions that I've answered along the way, so many of them pertain to this type of situation, but we usually talk about them, by way of just answering the question and expanding on that. And this gives us an opportunity to look at a real life example and how so many of those things we've talked about actually come into play. It's so cool for me that she would come and ask, and I'm very honored that she would ask, and so now, we'll take care of her and make sure that she gets what she needs. But you're going to have this opportunity too. If it hasn't come yet, and I'll be surprised if it hasn't, but if it hasn't come yet, it's coming. And I wanted you to see, hey, look, here's some way to get started in that. And, hey, look, you're going to do it your way, but kind of give you an idea of how we take care of each other. All right. So, look, I'll get back to answering some questions in episode number 41. I don't have to worry about that. But I appreciate you joining me here in the gun room and talking about, what is this thing called again? Cobra firearm. Cobra Kai. No mercy. All right. Well, I appreciate you joining us here in the gun room and talking about this. This is what this whole community should be about. Is taking care of each other, and that's what we do best. We're protectors, and this is another way of providing protection. It's passing along information to those who need it. All right. Well, look, if you're not a member of the Sheepdog Society, you need to be. All right. We've got a whole bunch of stuff in there, man. I've got so many courses in a bunch of different topics. It's $9.99 a month, man. You get all those courses to your heart's content. There's so many reports, full color PDF reports on optics and all this other stuff in there, as well as the Monday Mindset on Mondays, obviously. And then right here in the gun room on Thursdays, Shop Talk. And we've got a bunch of other stuff that we do inside there as well. Anyway, appreciate it. Don't forget to follow me there on the Snapchat, Faceagram, Twitter book, and all those their social media sites. I got a lot of fun stuff that I post on there. Like I was Snapchatting pictures of this with one of the guys there on Snapchat. I'm like, yeah, fixing a film in here. Oh my gosh, that's so cool. Yeah. So check it out in there. And I try to answer as many people as I can on Snapchat. Not like some of you guys are weird. All right, I'm just saying. I got some weird stuff going on in there. But some of the other guys over there are pretty cool. And if you're weird, I'm gonna let you know. Hey, dude, you probably need to be on some medicine. All right. But it's cool. I kind of like that Snapchat stuff. It's funny. Instagram, it's kind of how I live the life where I want you to think I live. Snapchat's a little bit more real. All right. Well, cool. All right, guys. Well, thanks for joining us. I'll see you next episode. Next episode, I'll be back to answering your questions. So submit them. We got a little link somewhere down there in the arrow box thingamabob there on the YouTube thing, and there's a link. It's a Google link. Put it in there and then we get to questions. All right, make them good questions. Don't forget to tell me why you want to know this information. All right, not just what is this? No, tell me why. All right, that's the most important thing. All right, cool. All right, guys. As always, stay alert and practice often. We'll see you next time. Turn this thing off. Hey, oh, there it is.